The government of Iraq putting former dictator Saddam Hussein on trial for his crimes sometime this summer. An early trial would show the new government is making progress bringing him to justice. Is the government, though, ready for a trial that'll be watched all over the world? How will the dictator defend himself? Joining us now, Gary Bass, Assistant Professor of Politics and International Affairs at Princeton University, the author of Stay the Hand of Vengeance, The Politics of War Crime Tribunals. Also joining us, Paul Williams, law professor at American University. He wrote a book, too, Peace with Justice, War Crimes and Accountability in the Former Yugoslavia. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us. Professor Williams, you know, Saddam was known to employ murder and torture and mass killing with poison gases. At a bare minimum, estimated at more than 300,000 people killed by his regime and buried in these mass graves. So there's plenty of physical evidence with the bodies. But unlike Adolf Hitler, Saddam didn't keep a lot of written records that might implicate him. How do prosecutors prove the case?
Well, the prosecutors have a very useful tool in proving their case, and that's the doctrine of command responsibility. In order to attach liability to Saddam for these hundreds of thousands of murders, all the prosecution has to do is show that he was in charge of these forces, which he clearly was given the political situation in Iraq, and that he knew or should have known these crimes were occurring, and that he failed to prevent them or to punish them. They don't need to establish direct responsibility.
Let me stay with you for just a moment, because the top advisor also talked about that. He's the top advisor to this tribunal in Iraq. Let me quote him. He's Gregory Kehoe. The investigators will try to prove, as you say, command responsibility. Mr. Hussein violated human rights by knowing about indiscriminate killings before or afterwards and doing nothing to stop or punish those who carried them out. That sounds like a charge of a lot less like he ordered it and instead just failed to prevent it. Isn't that sort of like a negligence argument?
Exactly. Because he was the, essentially the dictator or the president of Iraq, he had an affirmative obligation to ensure that individuals under his control in the military or the police forces did not commit atrocities. So it's a little bit of a flexible standard here. They don't have to prove that he ordered them.
I've never heard of it being used for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Professor Bass, what is Saddam's defense? Can he simply say, hey, look, I was the leader of the country and other countries recognized me as the legitimate leader. I'm therefore immune from prosecution?
Well, he's tried to make that argument in his first court appearance, but that doesn't really have much legal standing. Paul is exactly right. Under this doctrine of command responsibility, which is used in most international war crimes prosecutions, if you're president and you don't stop horrible things that are happening or you order them, then you're liable. Just being president doesn't mean that you're allowed to murder your own civilians.
Yeah. Now, Milosevic arguably murdered, and his defense was, at all times, I was acting to preserve the republic. The ethnic groups there, through violence, were trying to divide the country, so I acted to preserve it. Can Saddam use that defense?
Well, he can try and argue that there was a civil war going on and claim that the Kurds were trying to rip the country apart. But again, that doesn't really have standing. I mean, you can say that there was a political motivation for the slaughter, but you're still not allowed to gas your own civilians under no circumstances.
Professor Williams, real quickly, because I've got 30 seconds here, he can't just say, I was obligated to put down illegal insurrections?
In fact, he was obligated to protect the rights and the well-being of the citizens while he was attempting to put down those rebellions. And in fact, it appears that the court has evidence that he intentionally or permitted the intentional targeting of civilians, and that's the crime.
All right, Paul Williams, Gary Bass, thank you both, gentlemen.
Thank you.